I want you to picture a scenario for a second. It's a bit of a paradox, actually. Imagine two businesses.
Okay.
They're direct competitors. They sell the exact same product. Let's just say it's a high-end protein powder. Same ingredients, same price point, same fancy packaging.
Right. So business A and business B, all things being equal.
Exactly. Now, business A does what almost every traditional MBA program teaches you to do. They have this massive budget. They spend thousands of dollars sitting in these glass-walled boardrooms, analyzing global trends, maybe, buying some generic market research report.
Yeah, the classic approach.
Right, and they sit there and debate whether, I don't know, chocolate explosion or vanilla vortex is going to be the next big thing.
The Mad Men approach.
Yeah.
You sit in a room, you drink coffee, and you basically just guess what the world wants.
You guess. They build it, they launch it, and they cross their fingers. But then you have business B, and they don't guess at all.
They do something completely different.
They don't spend a single dime on that generic research. Instead, they send out a very specific and honestly somewhat strange sequence of questions to their email list. They effectively let the potential customers design the product for them.
Which is brilliant.
Yeah, and they find out people are actually sick of chocolate and vanilla. They want salted caramel, so that's what they make.
And the punchline here is pretty obvious.
Business B wins. It's a total landslide. But here is the thing that really struck me while diving into this material for you today. Business B didn't win because they had a better product initially.
No, they didn't.
They won because they flipped the entire dynamic of the relationship. They weren't selling at people, they were co-creating with them.
They stopped playing the guessing game. And I mean, that is the fundamental shift we are really talking about today.
Which brings us to the actual topic of this deep dive. We are unpacking the ASK method, which is based on the book Ask by Ryan Levesque. And honestly, reading through these sources, it just makes you realize how much money businesses from huge corporations all the way down to a weekend side hustle waste by just shouting into the void.
Oh, it is a massive problem.
Yeah.
You see entrepreneurs falling in love with their own ideas all the time. They have this product or this service, and they just try to force it onto the market.
It's pushing a boulder uphill.
Exactly. Levesque's whole argument is that you have to stop assuming you know anything. You have to start asking, but, and this is the crucial part we really need to get into today, you have to ask in a very specific, almost scientific way.
Yeah, that's the catch, isn't it? Because I feel like I get asked for feedback constantly.
All day long.
Right. Rate your Uber driver. Or how was your hotel stay? And I usually just ignore them.
Everyone does.
But the mission of this deep dive is to look at a framework that actually works to discover exactly what customers want before you try to sell to them.
Precisely. And if we look at the metric that really matters here, we're talking about conversion rate.
Right, turning the maybe into a yes.
Yes, but it's not about tricking someone into saying yes.
Yeah.
I think that's a misconception. It's about understanding their pain points so deeply that the sale just becomes a natural conclusion.
A natural fit.
It's a major shift from, look at me and how great my product is,
Yeah.
to, I understand exactly where you are right now.
So let's get into the nuts and bolts of this because it's fascinating. The source material outlines 4 key principles. The first one is something Levesque calls the deep dive survey. Now, I have to admit, when I hear survey, I immediately check out.
Right, you think of a receipt.
Yeah, I'm thinking of those long receipt surveys where they ask, on a scale of 1 to 10, how was our bathroom cleanliness?
And that is exactly what we are not doing here. Those are satisfaction surveys. They're backward-looking. They just tell you how you did yesterday. The deep dive survey is forward-looking. It's highly strategic. And the most important distinction here, the thing that probably goes against literally everything you've ever been taught about data collection, is that there are no checkboxes.
No checkboxes. That seems so counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Usually you want clean data, right? You want a nice pie chart at the end of the day.
Not at this stage. You don't want neat data. You want raw emotion.
Yeah.
You really want to get inside their heads.
So how do you do that?
The core of the deep dive survey is asking one open-ended question to discover the audience's single biggest challenge. You want them to write a paragraph. You want the rant.
The rant. The source material puts this pretty bluntly. It says, you cannot read your customer's mind. But if you let them write, you can read their diary.
Exactly.
And if you try to guess their problems, your marketing is always going to feel slightly off.
And that off feeling is the #1 conversion killer.
I mean, think about it for a second. When you read a marketing email or a website headline and it uses all this corporate jargon or words you would literally never use in real life, you instinctively recoil.
You just think, this isn't for me.
Right. you tune it out. But if that headline uses the exact phrase you used to describe your problem to a friend over drinks last night, you lean in.
You think, wow, they totally get it.
Because understanding equals trust, and trust equals revenue. You are essentially mirroring their own reality right back to them.
There was a great example in the reading about a professional services firm. I think it was a small accounting agency. I felt like this perfectly illustrated the difference between guessing and actually
Oh
asking.
yeah, the accountant example is classic.
Yeah.
So the typical assumption, the guess that probably 99% of accountants make, is that small business owners want tax help.
Which is logical. Accountants do taxes?
It's very logical. So the agency goes out and markets expert tax services, which is boring. It's a chore. I mean, nobody wakes up excited about tax services.
Nobody. But then this agency actually ran the deep dive survey.
Mhm.
They asked their email list, what is your #1 biggest challenge right now when it comes to managing your business finances?
And the revelation was just right there in the text responses.
It was glaring. The clients weren't actually losing sleep over tax season, because that only happens once a year.
Hmm.
They were absolutely terrified of cash flow.
Wow.
They were worried about making payroll next Friday. They were worried about literally running out of money.
That is a huge distinction because tax help is administrative. Cash flow is survival.
It changes everything. If you are marketing tax help to someone who is actively having a panic attack about cash flow, you're missing the mark completely. You're solving a problem they aren't currently stressing about.
Right.
But once the agency knew this, they changed their main marketing message to solving cash flow panic.
Which is such a stronger hook. It's visceral.
It hits the nerve. And that's the consequence of ignoring this principle entirely. As the source says, if you don't do this, you are essentially throwing darts in a dark room.
Hoping you hit something.
You might hit the board occasionally just by pure luck, but mostly you're just wasting your money on ads that don't resonate and building services nobody actually asked for.
Okay, but here is where I think it gets tricky. Let's say you do this. You run the deep dive survey. You get hundreds of responses back. Some people are worried about cash flow, some actually are worried about taxes, and maybe others are terrified of being audited. If you try to talk to all of them at once, aren't you just back to being generic?
Yes, you're right back to shouting into the void.
Yeah.
And this leads us directly to principle 2, which is hypersegmentation, or as Levesque calls it, buckets.
Buckets. I really like that visual.
It's simple, but it's incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
We have to stop treating an email list or a customer base as one big homogeneous blob.
Right?
You need to sort people into 3 to 5 distinct categories or buckets based on their specific situation.
The logic being that, say, a beginner has completely different problems than an expert, even if they're both interested in the exact same topic.
Exactly. If I'm just starting a new hobby, I need the 101 advice. But if I've been doing it for 10 years, that same basic advice is almost insulting.
Yeah, it bores the expert and it confuses the beginner.
And you lose both of them. Segmentation allows you to send the right message to the right person at the exact right time.
The source material used an example from the education sector for this, an online cooking course. This really clarified the concept for me because the actual product doesn't change, right?
That's the secret. You don't necessarily need to create 50 different products. You just need different framing. So for this cooking course, they used an ask funnel, and they found 3 specific buckets: busy parents, aspiring chefs, and health nuts.
Okay, so take a lesson or a module on knife skills. How do you sell that same video to those 3 totally different groups?
Well, for the aspiring chef, knife skills are all about artistry. It's the holy grail of cooking. So you market it to them as mastering knife skills like a Michelin pro. You really appeal to their ego and their desire for perfection.
But if you say Michelin Pro to a parent with 3 screaming kids in the background,
They'll laugh at you. They don't care about looking like a pro. They just care about getting food on the table before someone has a total meltdown.
right?
So for the busy parent bucket, you market the exact same content as how to chop veggies in half the time for 15-minute meals.
And for the health nut,
You'd say, prep your organic produce to maximize nutrition and reduce waste.
it's brilliant. It's the exact same video showing how to hold a chef's knife, but the why is completely customized to the person watching it.
And the result, obviously, is that conversion rates just skyrocket because the offer perfectly matches their life situation.
Yeah.
And just as importantly, people don't hit unsubscribe. When people feel like everything you send them is highly relevant to their life, they stay. When you just send generic blasts to everyone, they tune out.
Okay, so we have the survey to find the language, and we have the buckets to segment the audience. But here is the friction point I always struggle with.
Okay.
I know personally, getting me to fill out a survey or answer questions can be like pulling teeth. I see a form pop up with 10 questions, and I immediately click away. How do we solve that drop-off?
That is a very real problem, and it brings us to principle 3, the micro-commitment funnel. This directly addresses the psychology of getting that initial engagement.
Micro-commitment. It sounds like we're almost tricking the brain a little bit.
Well, we're leveraging how the brain naturally works. The mistake most businesses make is asking for way too much, way too soon. You don't ask for the sale, or even that big deep dive essay question, on the very first page. You have to start with small, non-threatening, super easy questions.
Things like, are you a man or a woman? Or do you prefer coffee or tea?
Exactly. Reflex questions. You don't even have to think to answer them. And there's some really fascinating human psychology at play here. It's basically Newton's laws applied to human behavior. A body in motion tends to stay in motion.
Ah, so once I click that first easy button, I'm in motion.
Correct. It's called completion bias. If I ask you a really simple question and you click yes, you are now mentally invested in the interaction. You've officially started a process, and the human brain has this natural urge to finish open loops.
So by the time the customer gets to the end of a, say, 5-question quiz, they're already in. They've built up all this momentum.
Exactly. They've made a series of small yes decisions. So when you finally ask for the sale or even just for their email address, it feels like the logical next step in the conversation, not some cold demand.
The example here from the reading was a health and wellness brand selling skincare. This is a classic one because usually you go to a beauty site and there's just a shop now button and a giant wall of products.
Which is totally overwhelming. There are 50 different products.
Mm-hmm.
Do I need the serum, the toner, the night cream? I have absolutely no idea, so I just leave.
Right. But instead, this specific brand uses a Find Your Skin Type quiz. Question 1. Is your skin oily or dry?
Easy click.
Exactly. Question 2. What is your primary goal? Acne, aging, or glow?
And notice what happens here. By the time they finish the quiz, the website doesn't just say check out our store. It says, based on your answers, we recommend the Glow Kit for dry skin.
That is so much more powerful than just browsing a catalog. It feels like getting a prescription from a doctor.
It really does. The customer thinks, this isn't just a random bottle of lotion. This is a specific solution to my exact problem. It completely removes decision fatigue.
The expert in the source material used a really great analogy for this. The marriage analogy. I honestly laughed when I read this because it's so accurate.
Yes, asking for a sale immediately, putting that Shop Now button on a cold landing page, is basically like walking up to a total stranger at a bar and asking them to marry you.
Highly aggressive. And you're very likely to get a drink thrown in your face.
It's just way too much pressure. Even if they might have been interested in a date, the ask is just too big. The quiz, those micro-commitments, that's the coffee date. That's the initial conversation. It bridges the gap for people who are interested, but just not ready to pull the trigger instantly.
It's about dating your customer, not forcing the ring on their finger the second you meet.
Precisely. You are building a relationship sequence, not just setting up a transaction point.
Okay, so let's say you've wooed them. They took the quiz, they fell into the dry skin bucket, they bought the Glow Kit. Huge success. We popped the champagne, right?
Well, for most businesses, yes.
Yeah.
They celebrate, and then they immediately go look for the next stranger to propose to. But Levesque argues that is where the real money is lost. And this leads to principle 4, pivot to profit.
Pivot to profit. So this is about what happens after the credit card is swiped.
It is. The ask method doesn't stop after the first sale.
Yeah.
You use the data you collected, remember those buckets we talked about, to offer the very next logical thing.
Because you already know exactly what their problems are. You don't have to guess what they might need next.
Exactly. We have to talk about customer lifetime value, or CLV. It is exponentially cheaper to sell to an existing customer than it is to go out and acquire a brand new one. But so many businesses are stuck on this hamster wheel, constantly hunting for new blood and completely ignoring the people who already trust them.
There was a coffee example for this one that really made it click for me. It was a specialty coffee e-commerce store.
Right. So through the quiz funnel, a customer is identified as a cold brew lover. That's their specific bucket. They buy their first bag of beans. Now, a generic marketing strategy, that business A approach we talked about earlier, would just send them ads for whatever happens to be on sale that week. Maybe espresso cups.
Which they don't want because they only drink cold brew. It's just irrelevant noise to them.
Exactly. But in the pivot to profit model, you already know they're in the cold brew bucket. So a few days after the purchase, You send an automated message, maybe via WhatsApp or email, offering a discounted cold brew filter kit.
It's brilliant because you are solving the very next problem in their journey. They have the beans, now they need the actual gear to make it properly at home.
And it feels like a service, not a sales pitch. You are genuinely helping them get the best possible result from their first purchase. That deepens the relationship and secures that second transaction.
It prevents that one-off sales syndrome where you just never see the customer again.
It builds a stable, resilient business. You aren't fragile anymore because you aren't dependent on constantly winning the lottery with new web traffic. You're farming. You're not hunting.
So we've covered the deep dive survey, hypersegmentation, micro-commitments, and pivoting to profit. It's a really complete system. But I know what you're thinking listening to this deep dive. You're thinking, this sounds great, but it sounds like a ton of work. I don't have a tech team. I don't know how to build a complex quiz funnel.
And that is a totally valid fear. Complexity is the enemy of execution. But the source material provides an immediate action plan. You can actually apply the core of this method right now, today, without building a single web page.
They say it takes 10 minutes and costs $0. Now, I'm usually pretty skeptical of claims like that, but looking at the steps, it actually seems completely doable. What is step one?
Step one is just looking at who is already paying you. Go to your Stripe, your PayPal, or your bank records. Identify your last 5 most satisfied customers. Just 5 people who you know had a really good experience with you.
Okay, I can do that. 5 people.
Step 2, open WhatsApp or your email. You are going to send them a personal message, not a mass blast, a real personal note.
And step 3 is the script itself. I'm actually going to read this verbatim from the source because the specific wording really matters here. You write, "Hi, name. I'm working on some new things for the business, and I'd love your input. What is your #1 biggest challenge right now when it comes to your business topic? Be as specific as possible."
That's it. It's simple, it's direct, and it asks for that specific pain point using the exact deep dive phrasing.
Then step 4 is listen.
And this is actually the hard part for some people. Don't just say thanks and move on. You have to look for patterns. If 3 out of those 5 people mention the exact same struggle, let's say they all mention time management or cleaning up the mess, that is absolute gold. That is your market literally talking to you.
And step 5?
Act. Take the most common phrase they used, their actual literal words, and update just one headline on your Facebook page or your website. Swap your generic headline for their specific problem.
So if they said, "I hate cleaning up the mess," your new main headline is "Stop hating the cleanup."
Exactly. And just watch what happens. It's a small test, but it proves the concept. You will likely see a bump in engagement immediately because you finally stopped guessing and started mirroring.
It really circles back to the core philosophy here. We started this whole conversation with the idea of a guessing game. This method just completely eliminates the guess.
It does. And if we zoom out for a second, what's really fascinating here is that the ask method isn't actually a sales trick. It's not about manipulation at all. It's an empathy engine.
An empathy engine. I really, really like that framing.
Ryan Levesque's core message is simple. Stop telling your customers what they need and start asking them what they want. It sounds subtle, but it is a monumental shift in mindset. You're moving from an egocentric business to a truly customer-centric one.
It's treating the customer as the expert on their own life, rather than you trying to be the guru on top of the mountain.
Precisely. And in a world where we are just bombarded by thousands of ads a day, shouting, flashing, demanding our attention, the quiet act of just asking, what is hard for you right now, cuts through the noise like nothing else.
Because when people feel heard, they trust. And when they trust, they buy.
That is the bottom line. Sustainable growth isn't about having better sales tactics or flashier funnels. It's about that real connection.
So here's a final thought to leave you with. We spent this time talking about using this framework for business, for marketing, and sales. But think about the last time you tried to convince anyone of anything. Your boss, your partner, your kids. Did you just guess what they wanted to hear? Did you walk in with a fully prepared speech? Or did you stop and ask them what their biggest challenge was first?
That is a very powerful question. This psychology really applies everywhere. If you want to influence someone, you have to understand their bucket first.
It really does. Stop guessing. Start asking. Thanks for diving in with us today.
A pleasure as always.
See you next time.